Jack, please take a seat and get comfortable for a few minutes. So, probably good afternoon by now. I'm Pam C., and it is my great honor to be president of the Virginia War Memorial Foundation. I want to keep this welcome brief because I want to get to the main event, which is hearing from our student guest. And I want to give their families a chance to have a nice meal with them afterwards. So we'll get through this and allow them to get a good meal before they get back on the road. So thank you all for coming today, and thank you all for being COVID conscious. There are some foundation directors here and some special foundation guests. I hope I get a chance to speak to all of you before you leave. And I want to make sure that you know the entire foundation staff is here. Mary Michael Watcher, our Director of Development, and Carrie Arcan, our Events Manager, and Brenna Majette, our Development Operations Manager. There she is. I'm happy that Clay Mountcastle, Director of the Memorial, can join us for lunch, and Chad Arcan, there he is, our operations director, can join us. And there are two other memorial staff members that I want to make sure that you get a chance to meet. Jim Treisler is our education director, and Morgan Geyer is our assistant director of education. And I just want to let you know this. Between February and yesterday, these two, with help from staff, have put together 88 digital programs. Before COVID, their goal for the year was to do 10. So when people talk about what COVID has changed, it has definitely changed the way we deliver our amazing programs. So 88 digital programs, the year's not over yet, more than 4,300 participants from 8 different states, and get this, 6 different countries. So pretty amazing stats. And it is also their great work that brings our special guest here today, the winners of the essay contest. The essay contest, like the digital programs, is a program underwritten with support from the Virginia War Memorial Foundation, which makes these things possible. The essay contest is open to middle and high school students in public, private, and homeschools throughout the state. So first, we're going to hear from Niamh Moreno, who's a 7th grader at the Basilica School of St. Mary, located in Alexandria, Virginia. Her teacher is Jacklin McKee, and Niamh is joined today by her proud parents, also veterans. Thank you so much for your service, and her seven younger siblings. The title of Niamh's essay is Why Luta May McGrath, the First Lady of Ordnance, Inspires Me. So, Niamh, come on, and yeah.
Hello, my name is Niamh Moreno, and this is my essay, Why Luta May McGrath, the First Lady of Ordnance, Inspires Me. When I think about a service to my country, a veteran who inspires me is Luta May Cornelius McGrath, who is also known as the First Lady of Ordnance. Luta May McGrath joined the United States Army in 1943 to fight in World War II. She served for 17 years and retired as a lieutenant colonel when she died at her home in Virginia in 2006. She was 108 years old. McGrath was honored by the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2015, and to me, her story is a perfect example of public courage and service and what women can accomplish. Colonel McGrath was born in Bettyville, Kentucky on November 1st, 1907. Her father died when she was 5 years old, leaving her mother poor and raising 3 children. Colonel McGrath lived in Bettyville for most of her childhood. She was a young woman when World War II began, and she enlisted in the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps in 1943. In the Army, Lieutenant McGrath was assigned to the Ordnance Corps, which is the department that supports the development of weapons. When she was first stationed in Texas, and an interview stated that she was usually treated with respect by male soldiers, and some of them resented women taking their jobs. She worked in Texas for 4 years when she helped make Army produce the weapons that were used to fight in World War II. In 1947, Colonel McGrath was sent to Germany. She helped coordinate the Berlin airlift, which was a plan to help the section of Berlin that American troops occupied and the Soviet Union blockaded. The Berlin airlift was a complicated mission between the United States Army and United Kingdom Air Force to bring food, medicine, and other supplies to the troops and people in West Berlin. It allowed the Allied troops to remain in West Berlin even though they were outnumbered by communist forces. In Berlin, Colonel McGrath met her husband, Thomas McGrath, who was also a United States officer. They were married in 1950 at Albany Proving Ground in Maryland. Colonel McGrath had many other assignments in the Ordnance Corps and retired 17 years as a lieutenant colonel, which was the highest rank ever achieved by a woman at that time. She and her husband retired to Annandale, Virginia, where they lived for the rest of their lives. The two never had children, but Colonel McGrath was very active in her community in supporting the military. She worked in the Women and Community Service Group, and the Army Ordnance community gave her the nickname the First Lady of Ordnance. Colonel McGrath was also very religious and attended Mass every day at Queen of Apostle Church in Alexandria. I cannot imagine how frightening it must have been for Lieutenant McGrath to join the Army at a time when the entire world was at war and very few women were able to join the military. Her service in Texas helped develop the tanks and missiles that helped the United States win the war. Her service with Germany helped in the fight Soviet Union and prevent another war. She stayed in the Army for many years and provided her commitment to her country and fellow Americans. Both my parents served in the United States Army in Iraq, and my mother, together with veterans like Colonel McGrath, helped make it possible for women today to serve. Colonel McGrath showed leadership and bravery, and her long life is one to be proud of. I wish I could have interviewed Lieutenant McGrath for this essay, but to know more about her experience in the Army. But I visited her national cemetery and left a flag at her grave to show my great respect for her life.
Thank you, Niamh. And there's a beautiful photograph. I hope it gets posted with the essay on the website of Niamh at the headstone with the flag. It's just really quite lovely. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful essay. And so next, our second essay is the Winning High School essay, and it is from Matthew Miscikowski. Oh, there he is. Matt is an 11th grader at Deep Run High School in Henrico. His teacher is Andrew Heare, who is here today. And Matthew is also joined by his parents and grandparents. So, Matt?
Hi, my name is Matthew Miscikowski. This is my essay. When I was younger, I would sit on the floor at my grandparents' house next to a kindly older gentleman who would tell me stories about flying airplanes. I was very young then and only knew him as some guy I was related to. But it wasn't until later that I realized I had the honor of getting to know someone from the greatest generation. That someone was my grandfather, Michael Troyanoski. Michael Troyanoski was a sergeant in the United States Army Air Corps during World War II. He was a navigator, engineer, radio operator, gunner on B-17s and B-24s and flew during 37 bombing raids over Europe during destroying targets that were critical to the Nazi war machine. Later, he was stationed in South America as part of search and rescue operations in the Pacific. I had no idea that the man holding my Thomas the Tank Engine toy was a war hero who had fought for freedom of future generations. I would listen to his tales, but unfortunately I could not appreciate them, as I had no understanding of what PBY was, or even what Germany was. Now that I am 16 and more knowledgeable about the history and events that led up to World War II, I understand the great sacrifice of not only my grandfather, but all the men and women who defended our country from the Axis powers. The true tragedy is that stories would never again touch my ears, as Michael Troyanoski passed away when I was 9. Regrettably, there are no recordings or handwritten notes of these stories. He had many old black and white photos of planes and places that we keep meticulously safe and treasured. Pictures of young men in a uniform and a much too big overcoat with a duffel bag standing in line with other young men boarding a train to basic training or B-17 limping back to home base. Smoke pouring out of its engine and a gunner bubble blown to smithereens. Some of these pictures show the stark reality of war, while others show young men just being happy to survive another day. As a young man, my grandfather had big dreams and big hopes and dreams. All that changed on December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was bombed. Michael Troyanoski was just one of the millions of Americans, men and women, who took up arms against injustice. Some volunteered, some were drafted. But they all went to battle, not knowing whether they would come home. My grandfather was one of the lucky ones, and he made it back to his small coal mining town in Pennsylvania, where he grew up. He came home, married, started a family, and took over the family business. When he talked about his time in World War II, he talked about the friends he made, places he saw, and all about the planes. He really loved those planes. He never talked about the missions, the loss of life experience, until one day my mom was helping him preserve the treasured photos and found pictures she had never seen before. Pictures of planes destroyed in battle, smoke coming from the enemy ships sinking into the sea, and scarred, charred earth seen from the planes as they flew over the land they had just targeted. When asked what these pictures of, he told her stories. The stories he did not like to share because they dredge up sadness and questions of why he survived when so many others didn't. But that was what the greatest generation did. They came home and carried on with their lives, shut away all the horror they had been through. We call them the greatest generation, but they were a modest group of men and women, never recognized themselves as heroes that they were, but just as individuals, doing what they did for their country and God. To this day, the image of my grandfather still shines bright as a beacon in my mind, which inspires me to be the best person that I can be. And one day I hope to be half the man that my grandfather was. We call them the greatest generation because of their humility, commitment, bravery, and love of their country. And there will never be another group like them. I close by saying that from their stories and pictures, they'll continue to inspire future generations to unite, commit, and defend the honor of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. You all have had a busy, hectic morning, and I invite the essay winners and their families to go get a hot lunch, relax, and we'll come around and present the certificates and explain the delivery of the prizes. So thank you all very much. Those of you who are having lunch in here, now you can spread out to the other tables and be compliant. And again, thank you all very much.